The black ship appeared on Earth sensors at exactly 14:32 on a Tuesday afternoon. It was massive, larger than anything humans had ever built, and it moved through space like a knife cutting through silk. Captain Elena Rodriguez stared at the readings on her screen and felt her heart skip a beat. "Are you seeing this?" asked Lieutenant Mike Torres from his position at the communications console. His voice was tight with tension. "I see it," Elena replied. She had been in charge of the Earth Defense Corps' monitoring station for 3 years. But this was the first time an alien ship had actually come to Earth. The readings showed the vessel was 3 kilometers long and made of materials that human sensors could barely identify. The ship stopped just outside Earth's atmosphere and began transmitting on multiple frequencies. The message was clear, cold, and direct. The computer translated it into English within seconds. "This is the Zelathari vessel Morning Star. We have come to retrieve the body of our scout Kexhi, who crashed on your planet 93 of your days ago. We require immediate compliance. We will land at the crash site coordinates to collect our property." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She knew exactly what they were talking about. 3 months ago, a small alien craft had crashed in the mountains of Colorado. The rescue teams had found it burning in a crater, and inside was something that changed everything humans thought they knew about life in the universe. "Should I respond, Captain?" Torres asked. Elena looked at the message again. The aliens spoke about their scout like he was already dead. They called him property. Something about that made her stomach turn. She thought about what she had seen in the medical facility, about the small form lying in the hospital bed surrounded by machines and caring doctors. "Open a channel," she said. The screen flickered and showed the bridge of the alien ship. The creature that appeared was tall and thin, with gray skin and large dark eyes. Its face showed no emotion at all. When it spoke, its voice was flat and mechanical. "I am Commander Vextel of the Zelathari fleet. You will provide us with the location of our scout's remains so we may collect them and leave your system." Elena took a deep breath. "Commander, I am Captain Elena Rodriguez of Earth Defense Corps. We found your scout, but there are things we need to discuss before any exchange can take place." The alien's expression did not change. "There is nothing to discuss. Death has occurred. We collect the body. This is the natural order. What if I told you that death did not occur?" Elena asked. For the first time, the alien's face showed something other than calm indifference. Its large eyes widened slightly, and it leaned forward in its chair. "Our sensors indicated total system failure. No life signs were detected after the crash." "You are mistaken." Elena looked at Dr. Sarah Chun, who was standing beside her console. Sarah had been the lead doctor working with their alien patient for the past 3 months. She nodded encouragingly. "Commander, I would like to invite you to the surface for a meeting. There are things about your scout that you need to see for yourself." The alien was quiet for a long moment. "This is unusual. In our experience, primitive species do not make demands when faced with superior technology." "We're not making demands," Elena said. "We're making an offer. Come see what we found. See what we've learned. Then you can decide what to do next." Another long pause. Elena could see other aliens moving around on their bridge, all of them tall and gray like their commander. None of them showed any emotion. "Very well," Commander Vextel finally said. "We will send a small delegation to your surface, but we will not tolerate deception or delays." "Understood. I'll send you coordinates for our research facility." The screen went black. Elena sat back in her chair and let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "Think they'll actually come?" Torres asked. "They'll come," Elena said. "They're curious now, and curiosity is something we can work with." Dr. Chun stepped forward. Are you sure this is the right approach? From what we've learned about their culture, they might not react well to what we've done. Elena thought about this. Over the past 3 months, the human medical team had learned a lot about the small alien they had rescued. His name was Kaxai, and he was young, maybe the equivalent of a human 12-year-old. When they found him, he was dying. His internal organs were crushed, his breathing had stopped, and his heart was failing. Any sane doctor would have pronounced him dead. But humans were not always sane when it came to saving lives. The medical team had worked for 36 hours straight, replacing damaged organs with artificial ones, connecting him to machines that could keep his blood flowing and his lungs working. It was the most complex surgery ever performed on an alien species, and it had worked. Kaxai was alive. Changed, certainly. More machine than organic in many ways, but alive and aware and able to communicate. He had even learned some basic English. Maybe they won't react well, Elena admitted. But they deserve to know what happened to their scout. And maybe, just maybe, we can show them something about humanity in the process. 3 hours later, a small shuttle detached from the alien ship and headed toward Earth. Elena watched it on her screen as it descended through the atmosphere. It was sleek and fast, moving with a grace that made human spacecraft look clumsy by comparison. The shuttle landed at the research facility in Colorado, not far from where Kaxai's original ship had crashed. Elena was there to meet it, along with Dr. Chun and a small security team. She had ordered her people to keep their weapons holstered but ready. This was either going to be the most important diplomatic meeting in human history, or the last mistake Elena would ever make. The shuttle door opened, and 3 aliens stepped out. They were even more imposing in person, standing over 7 feet tall with long limbs and perfectly proportioned features. Commander Vextol was in the lead, and his large dark eyes surveyed the human facility with obvious disapproval. You live in primitive structures, he observed. But we make them work, Elena replied. Please follow me. There's someone you need to see. Commander Vextol walked through the human facility with the careful steps of someone expecting an attack at any moment. His 2 companions, Science Officer the Koran and Security Chief Dolmers, followed close behind. Their large eyes took in every detail of the strange human architecture. Elena led them down a long corridor lined with windows. Through the glass, the aliens could see humans in white coats working with equipment they did not recognize. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, along with something else that Vextol could not identify. Your medical technology appears crude, Vekaran observed. His voice carried the same flat tone as his commander's. Dr. Chun glanced back at them. Crude, but effective. We've learned a lot in the past 3 months. They stopped at a security door that required Elena's handprint to open. Beyond it was another corridor, but this one felt different. The lights were dimmer, and the air moved differently through the ventilation system. Before we go further, Elena said, turning to face the 3 aliens, I need you to understand something. What you're about to see may be difficult for you to process. Your scout was badly injured in the crash. We did everything we could to save him. Save him? Vextol's voice carried a note of confusion. Our scans showed complete system failure. Death was inevitable. Yes, Elena said quietly. It was. She led them to a large window that looked into a medical room. The aliens stepped forward and stopped suddenly. Through the glass, they could see a small figure lying in a bed surrounded by machines. Tubes and wires connected the figure to various devices that hummed and beeped steadily. It was Kaxai. But he was not dead. Commander Vextol stared through the window for a full minute without speaking. His 2 companions moved closer, their eyes wide with shock. None of them had expected this. How? Vekaran whispered. Dr. Chun moved to stand beside the window. When we found him, his heart had stopped beating. His lungs were crushed. Most of his internal organs were damaged beyond repair. By any normal definition, he was dead or dying. She pointed to the various machines connected to the small alien. That device is pumping artificial blood through his body. This one is breathing for him. These monitors are tracking his brain activity and maintaining his body temperature. Dolmers, the security chief, stepped back from the window. This is an abomination. You have trapped his spirit in a broken shell. This is not life. But it is, Dr. Chun said firmly. His brain is active. He can think, communicate, even dream. We've been working with him for weeks now. He's aware and responsive. Commander Vestel finally found his voice. Why? Why would you do this? Death is natural. Death is peaceful. You have created suffering where none needed to exist. Elena moved closer to the window. Inside the room, Kexai's eyes opened. Even through the glass, they could see him looking around. A human nurse entered the room and said something to him that made him move his head slightly. He's trying to nod, Elena explained. His motor functions are limited, but he understands what people say to him. He's been learning English. This is impossible, Vextal said. Our medical knowledge is far superior to yours. If he could not be saved with our technology, then salvation was not possible. Dr. Chen smiled sadly. That's where you're wrong, Commander. Our technology isn't more advanced than yours. But we approach the problem differently. She gestured toward the machines, keeping Kexai alive. Your medicine probably focuses on working with the body's natural systems. Ours focuses on replacing what doesn't work. When his heart failed, we built him a new one. When his lungs collapsed, we created artificial ones. When his blood couldn't carry oxygen, we developed a synthetic substitute. Vekaran studied the readouts from the machines. These readings indicate stable brain function. But how is this possible? The trauma to his system was massive. We worked for 36 hours straight, Dr. Chen said. 14 doctors, 6 nurses, 3 engineers, and 2 computer specialists. We invented new procedures as we went along. Some of the technology keeping him alive was designed specifically for his biology during the surgery. Commander Vextel turned away from the window. What you describe is not medicine. It is resurrection. Such things are not natural. Maybe not, Elena said. But natural doesn't always mean right. She led them into the medical room. Kexai's eyes followed their movement as they approached his bed. When he saw the 3 Zelathari, his eyes widened with what could only be described as joy. Vextel, he said in a weak voice. The word came out strangely because of the breathing tube, but it was clearly recognizable. The commander froze. You know me? My clutch brother, Kexai whispered. I thought I would never see family again. Dr. Chun checked some readings on a nearby monitor. He's been worried about his family. He talks about you often. And someone called. Nalith? Our parent prime, Vekaran said automatically, then seemed shocked that he had revealed personal information. Kexai tried to lift his hand but couldn't manage it. The effort clearly frustrated him. The humans, he said slowly, they saved me. When I was lost in the dark, they brought me back. Commander Vextal stared down at the young Zelathari. In their culture, physical contact was rare. But something about seeing Kexai struggle made him reach out and gently touch the boy's hand. You should be dead, Vextal said softly. I was dead, Kexai replied. But they would not let me stay that way. Elena watched the interaction and felt her throat tighten with emotion. Commander, there's more you should know. What we've done so far is just the beginning. We believe we can do better. Vextel looked up at her. Better? Dr. Chun pulled up some files on a nearby computer screen. We've been growing replacement organs using tissue samples from Kexai. biological organs that will work with his natural systems. If we can successfully transplant them, he won't need the machines anymore. You would do this? Dolmers asked. Invest more resources in a member of another species? Of course we would, Elena said, as if the question was strange. We've already invested 3 months of work by our best medical team. Why would we stop now? Commander Vex Toll stood up straight, his face returning to its emotionless mask. What do you want in return for this? Service? Elena looked genuinely confused. What in return? Payment, resources, technology, territory. What is your price for what you have done? The human captain stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head. Commander, there is no price. We didn't save HFY because we wanted something from you. We saved him because that's what we do. The silence in the medical room stretched for nearly a minute. Commander Vex still stared at Elena as if she had just spoken in a language he could not understand. Behind him, Dekaran and Dolmers exchanged glances that showed their own confusion. You expect nothing in return, Vextal said finally. It was not a question, but a statement that he was clearly trying to process. Nothing, Elena confirmed. HFY needed help. We helped him. That's the end of it. Dolmers stepped forward. This makes no sense from an evolutionary perspective. Resources spent on another species provide no benefit to your own survival. Such behavior should have been eliminated by natural selection millions of years ago. Dr. Chun had been monitoring HFY's vital signs during the conversation. Now she looked up with a slight smile. Maybe that's where you're wrong about humans. Maybe what you call wasteful, we call strength. HFY's weak voice drew their attention back to the bed. Tell them, he whispered to Elena. Tell them about the others. Others? Vextal asked sharply. Elena nodded to Dr. Chun, who began pulling up files on the computer terminal beside HFY's bed. The screen filled with images and data that made the 3 Zilithari lean forward with interest. These are some of our other patients, Dr. Chun explained. The first image showed a human child, maybe 6 years old, lying in a bed similar to HFY's. Emma has leukemia. Her body is attacking itself, trying to kill her. We've been fighting it for 2 years now. She changed the image to show an elderly human man surrounded by machines. George is 93 years old. His heart is failing, his kidneys are shutting down, and his mind is starting to fade. His family brings him flowers every day and reads him stories. Another image appeared, this time of a premature baby in an incubator. The infant was so small that it looked like it could fit in someone's hand. Baby Sarah was born 4 months early. By all natural laws, she should have died immediately. Instead, we've been keeping her alive in an artificial womb for 6 weeks now. Her parents visit every day and sing to her. Dekaran studied the readouts carefully. The resources required for such interventions must be enormous. What is your return on investment? Some of them die anyway, Dr. Chun said simply. Despite everything we do, sometimes we lose them. Emma might not survive her cancer. George will probably die within the next few months. Baby Sarah has only a 60% chance of living to see her first birthday. Then why? Dolmers demanded. Why waste resources on cases that will likely fail? Elena pulled up a chair and sat down beside HFY's bed. Because every life has value. Because we can't bear to watch suffering when we might be able to stop it. Because hope is more important than probability. Hope? Vextal repeated the word as if it tasted strange. The belief that things can get better, Elena explained. The refusal to accept that some things cannot be changed. It's not logical, Commander. It's not efficient. But it's who we are. Dr. Chun brought up another set of files. These are our success stories. Children who had cancer and survived. Elderly people who lived years longer than predicted. Babies born too early who grew up healthy and strong. Adults who received organ transplants and went on to live full lives. She turned to face the three aliens. For every patient we lose, we save 2 or 3 others. But even if the numbers were reversed, even if we only saved 1 in 10, we would still try. Because that one life matters. HFY managed to turn his head slightly toward his clutch brother. They sing to me, he said softly. When the machines are loud and I am frightened, they sing songs from their world. I do not understand the words, but the sounds are peaceful. Vexdale looked down at the young Zelathari. Singing serves no medical purpose. No, Dr. Chun agreed. But it helps him feel less alone. And sometimes that's just as important as medicine. Elena stood up and walked to the window overlooking the facility's main floor. Commander, would you like to see more of what we do here? The 3 aliens followed her out of HFY's room and to an observation deck that looked down into the main medical facility. Below them, they could see dozens of humans working with patients of all ages. There were children playing games while receiving chemotherapy treatments. Elderly patients doing physical therapy with the help of young nurses. Families gathered around beds, holding hands and talking quietly. This is a teaching hospital, Elena explained. We train new doctors here, develop new treatments, and research cures for diseases that haven't been solved yet. But it's also a place where people come to hope. Dakaran watched the scene below where a human child was taking his first steps after some kind of leg surgery. The child's parents were crying and cheering at the same time. Such emotional displays seem counterproductive to healing. Actually, studies show that patients with strong family support heal faster, Dr. Chun said. Emotional connections activate healing responses in the human body. Love, literally, helps us survive. Commander Vextol was quiet for a long time, watching the activity below. Finally, he spoke. In Zelathari culture, we accept death as part of the natural order. When someone is injured beyond repair, we allow them to die peacefully. We do not prolong suffering. And that makes sense, Elena said. For your species? But humans see things differently. We see death as an enemy to be fought, not a friend to be welcomed, even when the fight is hopeless. Especially then, Elena replied. Because sometimes what looks hopeless isn't. Sometimes. What everyone says is impossible turns out to be just very difficult. Dolmaris pointed to a section of the hospital where humans in white coats were working with complex equipment. What are they doing there? Research, Dr. Chun said. They're developing new treatments, testing new drugs, creating new technologies. Also, we can save people who can't be saved today. And this research benefits all humans? It benefits everyone, Elena corrected. The techniques we developed to keep HFY alive have already led to improvements in our trauma surgery protocols. The artificial organs we created for him might one day help thousands of human patients. And the things we learned from studying his biology might teach us new ways to heal. Vextal turned to look at her directly. You are saying that saving one individual can benefit an entire species? I'm saying that every life we save teaches us something new about how to save the next one. Every problem we solve makes us better at solving the next problem. And every time we refuse to give up, we get a little bit stronger. A nurse appeared at Elena's shoulder. Dr. Chun, HFY's afternoon scan results are in. You'll want to see this. The group returned to the medical room where HFY lay connected to his machines. Dr. Chun studied the new data on her computer screen, and her expression brightened considerably. Good news, she announced. The tissue samples we've been growing have reached the size we need for the first transplant. If HFY agrees, we can replace his artificial heart with a biological one within the week. HFY's lit up as much as his condition would allow. I can have a real heart again? A real heart that will grow with you as you age. Dr. Chung confirmed. It will be made from your own genetic material, so your body won't reject it. Commander Vex still studied the scan results, even though he didn't fully understand them. The success probability? 75%, Dr. Chun said honestly. There are risks. But if it works, HFY will be one step closer to living without machines. Vexdale looked down at his clutch brother. The choice is yours to make. HFY didn't hesitate. I want to try. I want to live. Over the next 3 days, Commander Vexdale and his team were given complete access to the human medical facility. What they discovered challenged everything. They thought they understood about intelligent life in the universe. Elena had provided them with a small office and computer, terminals that could translate human databases into their language. The aliens spent hours reading about human medical history, and what they found seemed impossible. Listen to this, Dekaran said to his companions. He was reading from a historical record. In the year 1928, humans discovered a substance called penicillin. Before this discovery, simple infections killed millions of them each year. After it, deaths from infection dropped by 70% within a single generation. Dolmers looked up from his own research. That is not the strange part. What is strange is how they discovered it. A human scientist left some bacterial cultures uncovered by accident. Most species would have discarded the contaminated samples. Instead, this human noticed that something in the contamination was killing the bacteria. He spent months studying this accident. They turn mistakes into discoveries, Vextel observed. And they share these discoveries freely among their entire species. The commander had been reading about human medical ethics, and the concepts were difficult for him to understand. Humans had rules that required doctors to help anyone who needed it, regardless of their ability to pay or their value to society. They had laws that protected patients and required informed consent for treatments. Look at this, Vextal said, pointing to his screen. Humans have something called the Hippocratic Oath. Every human doctor promises to first do no harm. They promise to heal the sick and never intentionally cause death. Even their enemies? Dolmers asked. Especially their enemies, Elena said from the doorway. She had been coming to check on them regularly, bringing food and answering questions. During wars, human doctors are required to treat wounded soldiers from both sides equally. Dekaran found this concept particularly disturbing. That seems evolutionarily disadvantageous. Healing your enemies makes them stronger. In the short term, maybe, Elena agreed. But in the long term, it means that even our enemies know we can be trusted. It means that when wars end, there's a foundation for peace. She sat down in a chair across from them. There's something else you should understand about humans. We don't just fight death. We fight suffering in all its forms. Elena pulled up a new set of files on the computer. These are records from our history. Humans who sacrificed their own lives to save others. People who spent their wealth helping strangers. Individuals who dedicated their entire existence to reducing pain in the world. The file showed images and stories that the aliens found difficult to process. A human woman who spent 50 years caring for people with a terrible skin disease that made others afraid to touch them. A man who gave away his entire fortune to provide clean water for villages and distant countries. Children who donated their birthday money to help other children with cancer. This behavior makes no logical sense, Dolmer said. These individuals gained nothing from their sacrifices. They gained the satisfaction of knowing they had helped, Elena replied. For humans, that's often enough. Commander Vestal had been quiet for most of the conversation, but now he spoke up. We have been studying your historical records. Humans wage war against each other regularly. You fight over resources, territory, and ideas. How do you reconcile this violence with your apparent compassion? Elena sighed. We can't. That's one of the contradictions of being human. We're capable of great cruelty and great kindness, sometimes at the same time. We build weapons that can destroy entire cities, and then we build hospitals to heal the people those weapons injure. She stood up and walked to the window that looked down into the medical facility. Maybe that's what makes our compassion meaningful. It's not natural for us to be kind. We have to choose it every day, despite our instincts toward violence and selfishness. Dr. Chun appeared in the doorway carrying a tablet with new medical scans. Commander Vextel? I thought you'd want to see HFY's latest results. His new heart is integrating better than we hoped. The surgery had taken place 2 days earlier. 14 human doctors had worked for 6 hours to remove HFY's artificial heart and replace it with the biological one grown from his own tissue. The operation had been broadcast live to medical schools around the world, with thousands of human doctors learning from the procedure. His heart rate is stable. Blood pressure is normal, and there are no signs of rejection, Dr. Chun reported. If this continues, we can start planning the next surgery. Next surgery? Vextel asked. His lungs, Elena explained. We've been growing replacement lungs for him as well. If the heart transplant continues to succeed, we can give him biological lungs within a month. Dhakaran studied the medical data. The complexity of these procedures is remarkable. But why broadcast the surgery to other humans? Surely such advanced techniques should be kept secret. Dr. Chun looked surprised by the question. Secret? Why would we keep it secret? The more doctors who understand these procedures, the more patients we can help. We want every hospital in the world to be able to perform these operations. You freely share your most advanced medical knowledge. Of course, Dr. Chun said. Medical knowledge belongs to everyone. When someone is dying, it doesn't matter what country they're from or what species they are. They deserve the best care we can provide. Commander Vextel requested permission to speak with HFY alone. The humans agreed and left the 2 Zelithari in the medical room. Vextel pulled a chair close to his clutch brother's bed. How do you feel? Vextel asked. Different, HFY replied. His voice was stronger now that his new heart was pumping efficiently. I can feel it beating in my chest. It feels alive in a way the machine never did. Are you in pain? Some, but the humans give me medicine that helps. And they talk to me about things other than my injury. Dr. Chun tells me about her daughter. Nurse Sarah shows me pictures of her garden. They make me feel like a person, not just a patient. Vextel considered this. In Zelithari medical facilities, treatment was efficient and professional, but not personal. Patients were problems to be solved, not individuals to be cared for. Do you wish to return home when you are healed? Vextel asked. HFY was quiet for a moment. I want to see our family again, but I also want to stay and learn more about humans. They have shown me things about life that I never knew existed. Such as? Hope, HFY said, using the human word because there was no equivalent in their language. The belief that things can always get better. The idea that every problem has a solution, even if we haven't found it yet. Vextel looked around the room at the machines and monitors, at the flowers that human staff had brought for his clutch brother, at the drawings that human children had made to cheer up the alien boy they had heard about on the news. The humans have invested enormous resources in saving you, he said. They could have spent that money and effort on members of their own species. Why do you think they chose to help you instead? HFY smiled, an expression he had learned from watching humans. Because they couldn't do anything else. When they found me dying, their instinct was to fight for my life. Not because it benefited them, but because that's who they are. And who are they? Guardians, HFY said softly. They guard life wherever they find it. They guard hope even when it seems foolish. They guard the possibility that things can be better than they are. Vextal stood up and walked to the window. Below, he could see human families visiting their loved ones, doctors working late into the evening, researchers bent over microscopes searching for new cures. All of it dedicated to one simple goal: keeping people alive and healthy, regardless of the cost. "I must send a report to our government," he said finally. "What will you tell them?" Commander Vextal turned back to his clutch brother. "I will tell them that we have discovered the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they are violent, but because they are compassionate. Not because they conquer, but because they save." 6 weeks later, HFY took his first steps with his new biological heart and lungs working together. The moment was captured on video by Dr. Chun, who had tears in her eyes as she watched the young Zelathari walk slowly across the medical room without any life support equipment. "How do you feel?" Elena asked, steadying him as he moved. "Light," HFY replied, speaking more clearly now that he had real lungs. "Like I could float away if I'm not careful." Commander Vextal watched from the corner of the room. Over the past weeks, he had seen his clutch brother transform from a dying child connected to machines into a living, breathing person who could move and speak and even laugh at human jokes he didn't fully understand. But more than that, Vextal had watched the humans who cared for HFY. He had seen nurses work double shifts because they were worried about their alien patient. He had watched doctors celebrate small improvements in HFY's condition as if they were victories in a war. He had observed maintenance workers who took extra care cleaning HFY's room because they wanted him to be comfortable. "Dr. Chun," Vextal said, "may I see the final medical reports?" Dr. Chun handed him a tablet with all of HFY's test results. Everything was normal. His new organs were functioning perfectly. His immune system had accepted the transplants, and his mobility was improving daily. By every medical standard, the surgery had been a complete success. The procedure cost approximately $2.3 million, Dr. Chun said. That includes the surgery, the artificial organs, the biological replacements, 3 months of intensive care, and ongoing rehabilitation. "And your government paid this amount?" "The hospital paid some, insurance covered some, and the rest was donated by private citizens who heard about HFY's story on the news," Elena explained. "When people learned that we were treating an alien child, donations poured in from around the world. Dekaran, who had been studying human economics, found this incomprehensible. Strangers donated money to help someone they would never meet from a species they had never seen. Over $4 million in donations," Elena confirmed. "We had to set up a special fund because so many people wanted to contribute. Some donations were just a few dollars from children who emptied their piggy banks. Others were thousands of dollars from wealthy individuals. What did they expect to receive in return?" Elena shrugged. Nothing. Just the knowledge that they had helped save a life. Commander Vextal had spent weeks preparing his report to the Zelathari High Command. Now, as he watched HFY attempt to run for the first time since his crash, he knew what he had to tell them. "I will be transmitting my report today," he announced. "Then we will leave." HFY stopped running and turned to face his clutch brother. "Leave? But I thought we could stay longer. I wanted to see more of their world." "Our mission was to retrieve your body," Vextal replied. "That mission has evolved." Elena stepped forward. "HFY is welcome to stay as long as he wants. We still have more tests to run, and he could help us understand Zelathari biology better. And he could learn more about humans," Dr. Chun added. "We've barely started teaching him about our culture." Vextal considered this. That might be beneficial for both our species. That evening, Commander Vextal stood in the communication room aboard his ship, preparing to send what might be the most important message in Zelathari history. His crew waited behind him, as he activated the long-range transmitter. Zelathari High Command. This is Commander Vestal of the vessel, Morning Star. I am transmitting a priority report regarding our mission to retrieve Scout Kexhi. He paused, knowing that his next words would change everything between their species and humanity. Scout Kexhi was not dead when we arrived. The humans had spent considerable resources keeping him alive and have successfully repaired his injuries using technologies unknown to us. He's now healthy and recovering well. Another pause. The hard part was coming. However, this report is not primarily about Kexhi's survival. It is about what we have learned about the human species during our time here. I must recommend an immediate change in our relationship with Earth. Vextal looked out through the viewport at the blue planet below. Somewhere down there, human doctors were working late shifts in hospitals. Human researchers were searching for cures to diseases, and human families were caring for their sick and elderly. Humans are not the primitive species we believe them to be. Their technology may be less advanced than ours, but their approach to medicine and life preservation is far superior. They possess something we lack, the absolute refusal to accept death as inevitable. He thought about the videos he had seen of human medical history. Doctors who had worked without sleep for days to save patients. Scientists who had spent their entire lives searching for cures. Ordinary people who had donated organs to strangers. More importantly, humans extend this protection to other species. They saved Kexhi not for strategic gain or diplomatic advantage, but because they are constitutionally unable to watch suffering without attempting to stop it. This behavior appears to be universal among their population. Vextal had watched news broadcasts showing human rescue workers saving animals from burning buildings, volunteers caring for injured wildlife, and entire organizations dedicated to protecting endangered species. The pattern was consistent. Humans fought for life wherever they found it. I believe humanity represents a fundamental shift in galactic evolution. Most species develop intelligence as a tool for survival. Humans have developed intelligence as a tool for preventing death in others. They have weaponized compassion. He looked at the data tablet containing all his observations. Humans who adopted children from other continents. Doctors who traveled to dangerous areas to provide medical care. Researchers who worked on diseases that would never affect them personally. This makes them dangerous, but not in the way we typically understand danger. They are dangerous because they make other species question their own assumptions about survival and evolution. They prove that advancement can come from cooperation rather than competition. Vextal thought about Kexhi, who was learning to see the universe through human eyes. The young Zelathari now believed that every problem had a potential solution, that every setback was temporary, and that giving up was never acceptable. My recommendation is that we establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity immediately, not as conquerors or observers, but as students. They have something to teach us about the value of individual life and the power of collective effort. He prepared to close the transmission, then added one final observation. We came to Earth expecting to collect a dead scout. Instead, we discovered what it means to refuse death itself. Humans don't just preserve life, they create hope where none existed before. In doing so, they have shown us a new way to exist in the universe. The transmission ended. Commander Vextal stood in the silence of his ship's communication room, knowing that he had just recommended an alliance based not on military strength or technological exchange, but on something far more powerful, the human capacity for care. 3 days later, the Zelathari High Command's response arrived. It was brief and surprising. Alliance approved. Establish permanent embassy. Learn everything they will teach us. Commander Vextal smiled, an expression he had learned from humans. Down on Earth, Kexhi was probably playing games with human children in the hospital, learning about friendship and laughter and hope. The young Zelathari would grow up understanding both species, serving as a bridge between two very different ways of seeing life. And perhaps Vextel thought the galaxy would be a little less dark because of it. From his viewport, Earth looked small and fragile, a blue marble hanging in the void. But he now knew that appearances could be deceiving. That small planet contained the most powerful force in the universe. Beings who would fight death itself for a stranger and never ask for anything in return. That was what humanity really was. Not conquerors or warriors, but guardians of life in all its forms. And the galaxy would never be the same.